Thank you all for being here. It's a pleasure to be here with you. I've met most of you already. Isn't it a fine city, Ottawa? Isn't it a beautiful building we're in? My goodness, you walk up to it and you know you're going to learn something cool. You know you're going to be getting into something pretty nice. Hasn't it been fantastic weather here? Yes. Aren't these the kind of things we get started talking about? You know, where we are, location, how's the weather? You come here often. You notice that when you're networking? The thing is because people are trying to find something in common. We all have two things in common. We are all in the same place. You're here, I'm here. So let's talk about the room. Let's talk about the building. We've all been outside, so we know about the weather, and most of us have an opinion about it. This is kind of how conversations get started when you meet a person. Hey, how about this room? Hey, how about that weather? And then you're just kind of grasping for a connection. You know, oh, you're in accounting. My cousin's in accounting. Oh, now we can be friends. Now I can trust you because we have something in common. Oh, you're from New York. I went to New York once. You love New York. I love New York. So this is how these conversations get going because it's about finding common ground and from there building trust. Today I want to talk to you about how do you use networking in a strategic way to grow your business, to find partners for your business, to find your next customers through building relationships and building trust. So I want to touch on 4 areas. But before we get started, I want to tell you a bit about myself and where networking came for me. So I was a consummate mover. I moved around until I was in high school, never went to the same school twice for 2 years in a row. Always making new friends, always talking about, hey, how about this room? Hey, how about this weather to all these kids? And I sort of developed this skill of being able to quickly build a relationship with someone. Then I got into international networking as I moved to Spain to live for 7 months in Spain. Then I lived for 9 months in Japan, and this was during and after university. Then I was on vacation to Africa, and I met this woman in Tanzania. Zanzibar, Tanzania, who happened to be living on the other side of the river here in Quebec, and so I moved to Canada. Never been to Canada before, didn't know what the capital was to my embarrassment, and yet now I live here. So here we are. Tomorrow I'll be heading to Australia. See, I love to travel, and I was traveling in China in 2007 when someone said something to me that changed my perspective and made my new life mission. He said, there's 2 ways to travel. You could travel with a backpack, staying in hostels, eating granola bars, or you could travel 5-star on the company's dollar. So since then, I've been asking myself, how do I do that? How do I travel 5-star on the company's dollar? So I kind of made international networking something I'm always sort of thinking about. When I meet someone from another country, I met Bob from Reno. First thing I was thinking of, how can I get to Reno and hang out with Bob? And so Bob was telling me about his business of the University of Street Smarts, where they talk, that's what I do, about networking and about sales. So the first thing I'm thinking is, Bob, how can we work together? Because if I can find a way to travel on the company's dollar, see, my mantra now is, how do I go somewhere interesting and come back wealthier? That's what I'm trying to figure out. How do I go somewhere, make a little money, get my travel expenses covered, and come back? And this is also growing roots and setting down anchors and creating hubs in different geographic regions. So when I go there, I do some networking, I do some business. Next time I come back, I have a warm market to expand again, and I come back and I expand it again. So I did that with St. Louis, which is my home base. My family lives in southern Illinois. And so when I went home for Christmas, my goal was, how do I come back and someone pays for it? So I got home and I had 10 days at home. My first 3 days were networking. Met with a bunch of people, went out and did a bunch of speeches, and I got paid to come back in February. So now I have this growing, expanding market in these different geographic hubs. I'm sure a year from now, Australia and Southeast Asia is going to be a new hub for me. So I take these relationships and develop them into potential business opportunities using the networking strategies I'm about to teach you now. So we're going to talk about 4 things. We're going to talk about mindset for networking, which I think is the most important, having the right mindset. We're going to talk about what to do in person when you're at a networking event or a conference. We're going to talk about the follow-up system, which is crucial. And then specifically, we're going to talk about how can you make your networking go international. So the mindset, we're going to talk about how do you approach networking, what is the attitude you have. We talked about not how can you help me, but how can I help you. The in-person networking, we're going to talk about what do you do to get the most out of a meeting? What do you do to get the most out of a conference? The follow-up system is how do you keep in touch with people? If you know 1,000 people and you got a business to run, how do you keep in touch with everybody? We're going to talk about that. And finally, international. How do you get a foot in the door in a culture where maybe you don't speak the language? Maybe you don't understand the culture. Maybe it costs you $3,000 just to go there, so how do you get the most out of your trip? So let's get started with mindset. Very important. You remember we said it's not about how can you help me, it's about how can I help you. Everybody has something they need help with, whether it's something that you can solve or not. See, the problem is when you have a business, you go around thinking, how can I solve problems with my business? If you're, do I say Daquin? If you're Daquin, you make mugs or you make cups or you make pens, and you go and you realize someone doesn't need mugs, cups, and pens, and well, I can't help them. See, the problem is, as Abraham Maslow says, we tend to see all the problems in the world as nails when all we have is a hammer. So if your business is your hammer, and you're going around saying, well, that's not a nail, no, that's not a nail, and you can't help anybody. If you can't help people more, then you're leaving money on the table, you're leaving, you're not making the best, let me just get this right here. You're not making the greatest positive impact you possibly can. See, I wake up in the morning, I say, how can I make the greatest positive impact I can today? How can I help more people? How can I help people more? There's two ways to make more money than you're making now. It's helping more people, more customers, and it's helping people more value. But if you're going around saying, all I have is this hammer, and if there aren't any nails here, I can't help anybody, you are missing out on your potential to give. And one of the greatest things you can do, one of the easiest things you can do is figure out what does the person need? What is that thing that they need help with? And who do I know that can help them best? Make a quick introduction, easy introduction. And I've given you some very brief sample emails that you can make an introduction in the book that I've made available to you guys with iwantthebook@gmail.com. Simple email introduction. So I go home and I realize, okay, I got my 10 business cards. Who do I refer these people to? So I've identified what their need is that they can help, and who can I refer them to. And the great thing about that is a great way to build trust. Because if you say, oh, hey, you're a nail, I got a hammer, let's do business, you're in this buyer-seller, uneasy relationship. But if you say, I realize that you're a screw, and I know a screwdriver, I'm going to put you guys in touch, you've solved their problem, and it hasn't benefited you, which is great for building trust, because you know that I'm not gaining anything, I just want to help you. And the next time you're in touch with them, I'm not going to gain anything, I just want to help you. That's how you build trust. So find out how you can help other people. Now, on the flip side is you should know how people can help you. When someone says to you, hey, how can I help you? You should have an answer. And if you don't, you're missing out on an opportunity to be helped. One of the problems with this whole help and be helped relationship is people will think, you know what? If I can't help you back, I don't want your help. That is a big mistake. Because think about the joy you get when you help somebody. Think about the joy you get when you help somebody. And when you tell someone, sorry, I don't want your help because I can't think of a way that I can help you back right now, you are depriving them of that joy. Think about that. Depriving them of the joy to help you. So don't block the flow of help coming your way. There will be times where everyone will be helping you and you can't help anybody. And there will be times that you're helping everybody and they can't help you back. There will be times where you get help and you pay it forward. So allow people to help you and be aware of what you need help with. You're walking around saying, I need help with a graphic designer and I need a new accountant. And as you're meeting people, they may not be a graphic designer or an accountant, but when they say, how can I help you? You say, do you know a good accountant? Do you know a good graphic designer? And then they can be useful. Very important concept in your mindset. Here's another real quick idea. Just don't keep score. Don't say, I helped you, so you helped me back. Or you helped me, and now I have to help you back. Because that bitters the whole process. You don't want to get help from somebody when they're expecting something back. My mother-in-law does this. Love her to death. She drops by with some food, and then she calls later that day, have you tried it yet? Do you like it? And then next time she's coming, next time I go and see her, she's expecting compliments. And she's expecting some help, and she's thinking, well, I did drop off that food. And so now the food tastes a bit bitter. It bitters the process. Question, yes, sir.
So on this helping thing, I give you an example. I prefer business before. I think a specific lawyer in town, and I preferred a lot over, a 2-year period. Nothing has come back, and the impression I get is that some people are just not comfortable referring. I mean, they're because they say if I refer you and something screws up or whatever, it falls back on me. So the thing I said to myself, you know what, I'll just move on and try to strike a relationship up with somebody who I know it's going to be a two-way street eventually. I'll get to that point. I have to give, that's fine. I don't have a problem with that. And then once they feel comfortable with me, then we'll refer business back. So I just moved on. I don't think we comments on that.
Your name, sir? Paul. So I heard you say that you've been given a lot and you haven't been getting a lot. And now you want to kind of shift your relationship focus to those that are more in tune with, hey, if you're getting some, you're giving some back, right?
But over time, I know it's not going to happen overnight.
There's two things I would say to you, Paul. Paul, right? One is you are keeping score. And you're saying, I want to keep score more. And the other is maybe you're not referable because you haven't differentiated yourself. You haven't trained the people that know you to see you are the only one guy that does what you do. Did I hear you say you're in financial services? Okay, I'm going to give you guys a formula for being remembered to be referred. The formula is this. You might want to write it down. It starts with the words, you know how. And then you describe the problem that you solve. So it's you know how and then the problem. And then what I do and the solution. So when you're at a cocktail party, so that formula again is you know how plus problem plus what I do plus solution. So you're at a networking event and someone says, what do you do? And you say, I'm in financial services. Or you say, well, what do you say, Paul? What do you do?
Usually the other thing I'd say, I coordinate the financial affairs for business owners and individuals.
Okay. So I hear that and I go, financial affairs, I don't have any of those. Or business owner, that's not me. And then I'm immediately more interested in the cheese and the wine than talking to you. But if you use this formula, you know how, problem, what I do, solution. So you might say, you know how when you're sitting at the kitchen table and you're going through your bills and you're asking yourself, gee, where has all my money gone? Well, what I do is I sit down with people and I help them figure out their financial goals and I help them reach them like going on vacation or buying a new car. And so the difference is this. When you say you know how, it starts playing this reel in your mind that you're watching this video. You have to visualize what I'm saying. If I say, you know how when you walk down the street you hear the birds? You have to imagine walking down the street and hearing the birds if you're paying attention to me. So when I say, you know how when you're sitting at the kitchen table reading your bills, they see that happening. And so that's the problem. And you're thinking, where's all my money gone? Well, what I do is I sit down with people. Now you're imagining you're sitting down with me and I help them figure out, and they're thinking about the car and the vacation and the new house. And so they've become familiar with the problem that you solve. Because if I hear you help people arrange financial affairs for their businesses, I don't see what that looks like. I don't have that. I'm not familiar with that problem. I am familiar with sitting down looking at my bills, going, ooh, what happened to my money? So when you get people familiar and visually and sensationally familiar with your problem, and then they think of you, that's how you can become more referable, because they're going to become exposed to that problem. They're going to think, Paul solves this problem. So just think about your referability and activate people's reticular activator. That's the part of your brain that is focused on what is sort of in focus in your life. Have you noticed that when you buy a new car, you're driving around, you notice the make and model of your car. All of a sudden, oh my goodness, there's so many of my car out on the road. It's because now you're more aware. So you want to be top of mind with people so that they can refer you. That might be part of the problem. Part of the problem is certainly the people that you're working with they're not referring you business. So you might ask them, well, why not? Is it because you don't understand what I do? Is it because you don't meet people that have my problem? Because I can help educate you to understand you do meet people that have the problem that I solve on a regular basis. Does that answer your question, Paul? Great. So I want you to imagine floating over my head the number 2,000. See, 1 equals 200 equals 2,000. Look around the room. Everybody has the number 2,000 floating above their head. Just imagine that. Every person you meet knows 2,000 people. Every person you meet likes, knows, and trusts 200 people. So every person you meet is an opportunity to maybe not help them, but help someone they know. Or certainly help someone they know that they know, who knows who they know. So when you see a face, you must look closer, and you'll see many faces. This is part of the mentality shift. When you look at one person and you think, I can't help that person. They're a screw and I'm a hammer. Or when you see someone and you realize, this isn't the kind of customer I go for. This isn't the person I work with. Look at it as every single person you know knows your next customer. Every single person you meet knows your next customer. And treat them as in, how can I help you? I want to serve you. I want to build trust with you. I want to build a relationship. And when it becomes time for you to refer me, I've educated you very well that I'm awesome and you know exactly what I do. So that's it about mindset. It's all about trust. Networking is about trust. Networking is about transference of trust. If I walk up to a company and say, I want a job here, they say, well, who are you? Guy off the street, I don't trust you. But if I go to my cousin who works at that company, my cousin trusts me, the company trusts my cousin, I've transferred this trust. So networking is all about transference of trust. Remember the simple formula I gave you this morning about building trust? Create an expectation, match the expectation. If you expect me to be professional and I show up in a suit and tie, I've matched the expectation. If I say I'm going to pick you up at 4 o'clock and I don't show up, and I don't call, I've created an expectation and I did not match it. I've broken trust. Next time I say I'm going to pick you up at 4 o'clock, what do you think? Oh, I don't know. Because I created an expectation and I didn't match it to build trust. So that's what networking is all about. When you say, can I have your card, you've created the expectation that you're interested in contacting me. So match that expectation by contacting me. So this is a bit on the mindset, very important. Okay, so what do you do when you're going to an event, you want to get the most out of it? You guys are all part of an organization, your executive organization. These are networking groups. Here's the problem with networking groups. It can be a huge waste of time and money. All those bad breakfasts. Seeing those same old faces. Unless you're doing something with it. Unless you have a strategy. So what's your strategy? Why are you a part of this group? Are you a part of the group just because they let you in and you were pretty excited about that? Or are you a part of the group because it fits your goals? I have to ask yourself this question. Does being in this group fit my goals? And there's only one way you can accurately answer that question. That is if you are clear on what your goals are. So if my goals are to meet this certain kind of people, then being in this group, does it fit my goals? Am I getting out of this group what I want to get out of it? See, we are all walking, talking, living, breathing businesses. And if our activity, how we allocate our time and energy, is not profiting us, our shareholders, we are misusing our time just because it feels good, because people love me in this group, and well, I'm the president and I can't quit. I was the president of a group that I really should not have been a member of, but I was like, well, I'm the president. What are they possibly going to do without me? It's going to crumble without me. So I left them. Here's how I decided to leave them. I made a mind map. Anybody familiar with mind mapping? Fantastic way to get ideas out of your head onto paper. I wrote the word commitments in the middle and did a whole mind map of everything that I'm committed to, and I realized I was in way too many clubs. So I said, all right, if I had to get rid of the bottom 10% of this, what would it be? Started crossing out some clubs. And in the next 2 months, I was just putting in my pink slip. I'm out of here. I have to focus. And then I doubled my efforts and became much more available and present in the 2 or 3 groups that were really serving me instead of being not so present in 7 or 8 groups. So this can be really important for you to focus on the groups that are giving you the most value and track and measure the results that are coming from being part of these groups. It's expensive, all those breakfasts you buy, but your time is your most valuable resource. And if you're not getting a whole lot out of these groups, you really better double check why you are in those groups. So you decide to go to an event and you want to get the most out of it. Now some people will tell you, I really want to have a deep conversation with 2 or 3 people and walk out with those 3 relationships. That's great. I go for a bit of depth. I go for a good impression, a good connection, and a follow-up. And I go for volume. I try to get 7 to 10 in an hour. So that's 6 minutes per person, no more. If it's 3 people I'm talking to and I get each person's card, I can spend 18 minutes. So I go for the strategic spots. I like to hang out by the booze or by the door. Because when people are eating and drinking, it is implied that this is a social time. I'm eating and drinking. I can put my formalities down. It's a bit more social. And we have something to talk about. We are both familiar with the food that is here. Hey, how about this food? We're talking about something we have in common. We're both standing by the food. The door is a strategic spot because when people come in, it is the most vulnerable moment. They walk into a room and they are afraid. I don't know anybody here. What am I doing here? I'm just going to go straight for the cheese and keep my head down. And who was it? Was it you, Bob, who told me that what to do? No, it was Darren. Darren's not here. Darren said, here's what you do if you're an introvert. Imagine that you're hosting the event. I didn't realize I actually already do that. When people walk in, I say, hey, welcome, even though if I've just arrived and I don't know anybody here. I imagine that I'm hosting the event, and so you welcome people in. Coat check right over there, bathrooms over here, the cheese is over that way, welcome. And so you've made that first positive impression, and as people are leaving, you're having your conversations and shaking people's hands on their way out. First face to see, last face to see. They're going to remember you. What's that? That's right, and I'll get into what you can do with the actual host of the event. Now, to become an introduction superhero. When you're at the event, and if you know one person, every person you meet, you should take them by the hand and say, I'd like to introduce you to this person that I know. Now, you've done a couple things here. You've added value to the person that you just took by the hand. You've added value to the person that you're introducing them to, and you are this magical connector. And it's a great way to get out of a conversation. If you're in a conversation that's going just a little too long, you say, you know what, I'd like to introduce you to someone. Right this way. Because that can be. I've done this, I've been in a conversation one-on-one that I just don't want to be in, either because I got to go use the washroom or I just got to get out of this, and someone I know is walking by, and I say, oh, Dan, hey, Dan, have you met my new friend? And they get to talking, and I say, you guys talk. Great way to get out of a conversation, because if you can't get out of a conversation by being assertive or being creative, then you lose opportunities. If you have 3 hours with the target market of your business, and it's the one-time annual meeting, and you get stuck in an hour conversation, that is your fault. Question? Oh, I hope not. I hope not. See, the thing is, if you are at a networking event, and you know it's a networking event, you are there to meet people. We all go to a networking event with one problem. I don't know enough people. I'd like to leave here knowing more people. And I'm solving everybody's problem by introducing them, introducing myself. When someone's standing on the wall, they're at a networking event. They know they're there. And I go up to them and I introduce myself. I just solved their problem, which is I don't know enough people. Now you know one more. Instead of a common mentality would be, oh, they must be thinking about something. very special. Or there must be in the middle of a really deep conversation I wouldn't want to break in. Which might be, which might apply if someone was at the mall. You wouldn't go up to someone at the mall standing against the wall and say, hi, here's my business. But you do in a networking event. You're solving people's problem, which is, I don't know enough people. So making the most of the event, here's what you can do to get in, you mentioned the actual host of the event. See, I like to arrive early and leave last, because when you do that, you get in touch with the hosts of the event. You see them pulling together the last decorations. These are the leaders of the organization. They are, if I may say, the most important people to connect to because they know everyone else in the organization. Oh, well. Actually, my wife and I would have a policy. Thank you for asking. She doesn't come to the networking events because she likes my attention. And I feel like I have this limited time and I got to meet these people. And sorry, honey, I already know you very well. We're going to hang out later. And then I leave her.
But if you're going to an event, a gala like yesterday, or you're bringing your spouse,
Yes.
I mean, you're working the room.
Not as effectively as when I'm alone.
No, but you still are.
Yes. Yes, I am.
And then my wife would say, don't leave me alone. Don't leave
My wife, exactly.
Somebody else and then go up.
Oh, yeah. You left me with so-and-so.
No, you got it. And if you're running a business, which you all are, you have to create clear expectations with family about certain boundaries of business. And if you're going to a meeting and it's a business meeting, and you want to get the most out of it, either because you've made an investment of flying out there, you've made an investment of your time, you have that conversation before you enter the room. My wife loves to go with me to conventions. She stays in the hotel room and she goes shopping. Now, she's not like, a shopaholic, but she doesn't like to. She's very introverted. She doesn't get energy by meeting a bunch of people. I love it. I have a deep curiosity about people and a deep appreciation of the power of an introduction. If I can just get to know a person and I realize what kind of person they need to meet, I would love to introduce them right away. And if not, I maintain this database of everybody I know, how can I help them in an ongoing way? And I continually refresh that understanding, that constant, present understanding of how can I help these people that I know? And when I meet the person that can help them, I make the introduction. 90% of the problems that I solve are not solved by me. They're solved by an email to someone who's much better at solving the problem. But then I become this go-to guy. Because I know all these people and I make these connections, I become the go-to guy. Hey, Majeed, do you know someone who can? You know what? I'm going to think about that and I'll get back to you, and I make a referral later. So arriving early and leave last. You see, there's actually 4 meetings in every meeting. There is the meeting, but there are 3 secret meetings. There's the meeting before the meeting, there's the meeting after the meeting, and there's the meeting within the meeting. Here's how this works. You know you're going to the meeting and you're putting this commitment on your calendar. I'm going to be here from 6 to 9 p.m. Once you know that, then you start inviting other people. You start inviting other people because 1, the invitation is flattering whether or not the person is coming. 2, if they come, you will have a touch point with that person. It's not going to be a deep conversation, but you're going to be hey, how's it going? What's new? A touch point. That's the meeting within the meeting. And you've invited all these people. It's an excuse to get in touch with people that is not, hey, remember me? Buy my stuff. It's, hey, remember me? I'm going to this thing, and I thought you'd be interested in coming. Would you like to come along and join me? That's the meeting within the meeting. The meeting before the meeting, hey, is I'm going to be here from 6 to 9. Would you like to grab a coffee at 5? The meeting after the meeting is I'm going to be here from 6 to 9. Would you like to grab a coffee or beer at 9? So this is making the most of every event that you put on the calendar. If I'm going to put something on the calendar, I want to get the most out of it by seeing people that I know there because I've invited them, by meeting with someone before, by meeting with someone after. This is a great way to reduce, as we call in sales, windshield time. Windshield time is when you're driving to meetings. It's also called not making money time. So if I'm going to be somewhere, I want to get people, my clients, my prospects to meet me around that meeting, preferably at the same location. Hey, if you're coming for 5 o'clock coffee, hey, I'm going to this thing at 6. You want to join me? And who really appreciates that is the host of the meeting. Now you're this person who brings a bunch of people with you to these events. Everyone loves people to come to their events. So this is how you can get the most out of a meeting if I'm going to commit to somewhere, just as if you came from out of town. You're flying to Ottawa, and maybe you knew this a month ago or 2 months ago. As soon as you know that, then you start calling all the people you know within a 20-mile radius of Ottawa, and you're saying, hey, I'm going to be in Ottawa these days, would you like to meet? That's the meeting within the meeting before and after the meeting. Now, the way you get better with anything, you prepare and you review. Prepare. Who's going to be there? What's it going to be like? Who are the leaders? Who do I need to meet there? Who's my short list of targets to meet at this organization? This is all preparation. And I have a preparation checklist for any networking event that you go to in my networking book. I also have a post-networking event review. How well did I do? How was I feeling? What environment was it? Did I thrive or was I struggling in this certain environment? How was my follow-up? And so it's becoming aware of this with preparing and reviewing that you're going to get better and better, making each event more effective. So you have these events, these really short periods of time to make a really positive impact on someone, figure out how you can help them, get their card, and then the relationship can be over the phone, it can be over the email, but there's nothing to replace face-to-face, especially for a first impression. I don't think I've ever gotten a positive first impression, certainly not as deep of a positive first impression as a face-to-face from an email or a Facebook connection or a LinkedIn. It's sort of like, oh, okay, I'll be your friend, or I'll be your LinkedIn buddy, or whatever. But I don't really get to know you. So you have this meeting, this very short period of time, to make an impression, and then you can continue the relationship for years over the phone after that. So that's why preparing and reviewing is so important, reviewing to get better for next time, preparing to be the most effective you can at the event. Yes, Paul?
So we just mentioned LinkedIn. So how would you leverage that? If we're getting invitations, you know, on LinkedIn with you and stuff like that, how do you approach that? You send them back a message and say, you know, who are you and what do you do? Or?
Sure. I'm going to not go too deep on social media because we have some other social media sessions. And I'm going to touch on social media later. But the short answer is I allow everyone to connect with me. And I will attempt to connect with everyone through that's not correct. I don't attempt to connect with everyone. I will accept every invitation, and I will attempt to connect with people that I think there might be a future for us to have an interaction with. So maybe 20% of the people I will go out of my way to connect with them on social media. And from there, we have what I call passive follow-up streams, and I'll talk more about that in just a few minutes. Okay, so this is what you do when you're at the event to get the most of the event. Now your follow-up system, crucial. Crucial, crucial. See, I got these business cards. Oh, by the way, if you're wondering why you have pipe cleaners, it's for you to play with, just to have a little warm and fuzzy experience during our time together. See, some people are visual learners, some people are audio learners, some people are kinesthetic. So you can actually just play with these things if you'd like to. That's all they're there for, these pipe cleaners. I got these business cards, and every once in a while, I take them out, and I just shuffle through them. And I like to feel them. You know, I like to feel business cards. You have my business card in front of you. Go ahead and grab it and feel it. It feels a bit different. It feels strong. It's thick. I want you to associate strong and preferably not thick with me, if you could do that. See, the thing about the business card is you feel it. You have a kinesthetic feeling. And then it goes into someone's pocket. And then it must come out of that pocket. And when it comes out of that pocket, they've touched it again. And I like people to see my face. That's why I put it on there. And then they put it on their kitchen counter. And every time they walk by it on their kitchen counter, they see you again. And then they put it in their big bucket of cards. And when they're looking for someone else's cards, they see you again. So you have an opportunity to have multiple points of exposure through the business card. But what do you do with these business cards once you have them? You got all these business cards. What do you do? Well, I find that you got to put them in a system. You got to input the information into your database. Now, I don't use the most sophisticated CRM, customer relationship management. I use my email. I use my Gmail. What I do is I take the card and I take the name, the email, and the phone number, and I type it in myself. No secretary, no scanner, probably not the most efficient way. But I come home, I have all my cards here, and I have all of your cards here. And I take your cards out, and I sit in front of the computer. Discipline. This requires some discipline. And I do follow-up emails the same day. The reason I do this is because it takes just as long to write an email the same day as it does 2 weeks. But the value starts to logarithmically diminish until 1 month, 2 months, 3 months later, it has diminished so much that you're thinking, might as well not even email the person because they probably don't remember me. Versus the same day, you have the opportunity to make a person say, wow, that was awesome. Follow up. And so when I follow up about what we talked about. If we talked about something interesting, I'm going to mention it so that you'll remember me. Remember, I said be memorable, but if you follow up with people, you don't have to be memorable. You can remind them. Remember we talked about? Remember I was the guy with the red tie? So this is your contact database. It is your growing asset. If you go into a different business, you are bringing your whole contact database with you. I was talking to a guy in sales who's been out of the business for a couple years. He said, my entire contact list is cold. I need to start from scratch. That's a belief that he has, which I wouldn't necessarily agree with. You at least want to get back in touch with them. But that is a huge mistake that he made. Being out of the business, he hasn't kept it fresh, kept it alive. And you do that with passive follow-up streams, which I'll talk about in a second. Now, you want to stratify your list into the most important, second most important, and I have 3 groups. Everyone else, 75%. I shoot for about 75% of the people are in the everyone else group. I like to keep in touch with them once a quarter, once every 3 months. 20% of the people are those people that like me, know me, and trust me. I like to keep in touch with them once a month. And then I have a 5% group. They're like my now power group. I call them the Power 100. I try to keep it under 100. It's my 5%. And they're the people that are most likely to help me achieve my goals today. Some of those people are close family and friends. Some of those people are active clients, active business partners. I want to keep in touch with them once a week. So I scan that list on my Friday review. Have I touched base with this person this week? If not, I want to shoot them an email this week in my weekly review. In my monthly review, I'll pull out my 20% list. In my quarterly review, I go through the whole thing. I just went through the whole thing rearranging for Australia because I'm thinking, okay, I'm going to make these lists a lot shorter so I could be more focused in Australia. And it made me really have to pare down. And one of the things I did is one of the things I do on a quarterly basis, which is this. I prune poisonous people. Those that are negative are no longer in my email lists. When I got married, that started with my ex-girlfriends. Oh, crossed them all out. But some people that there might be good business contacts, but my wife would be very upset if we did business. People that are just not helping me out. Their energy's not vibing with me. They're too negative. They're always complaining. They're bad customers. I just prune the poisonous people. Question?
Is that Paul's problem? He needs to prune that poisonous person, the lawyer that he gives all the work to. Is that a poisonous person?
I'd say the people that aren't supporting you in helping you achieving your goals are holding you back. If you're giving them your time and energy and it's not giving you results, they may not be considered poisonous, but certainly not in the 20% or the 5% group that you should be focusing on.
Because there's some people out there that just, they're not the type of people to prefer, they're very analytical and stuff like that, and they don't prefer anybody. They don't want to work for a plumber or whatever. They're just like that.
And if you're able to identify that, then the quicker you move from that, the better. My father told me when I went from 3rd grade to 4th grade that you are the people you spend your time with. He told me that, and I said, well, I want to get good grades, so I'm just going to hang out with the people who get good grades. That's what I said in 4th grade, and we were competitive, just like I was always competitive, but we were competitive about who got the highest grades. Whereas some of the other kids I used to hang out with, we were competitive about how many rules we could break, how many classes we could skip, how many kids we could knock over in the playground. Yes?
Could you just go back one slide? I'm just having a hard time understanding the time associated with those percentages. What's going on in your head? 5% is key. So those are your key success partners. You're spending 5% of your time.
No, this is 5% of the volume of my list.
5% of the volume. So what would be the size of your list? That's 100.
So I have a list of 100. My list in my context is about 2,500.
Okay.
So this is my list of 100 would be, that's actually 20%. No, 10%. My math here. Yeah. Huh? Is it less than 5%? Okay, it's 100 people. Oh, yeah, you're right. It's about 2%. It's about 2%. So I got 100 people. I got 100 people that I want to touch base with once a week.
If you feel 100 people is as many people as you can talk to, communicate with in a meaningful way, what's that number from?
In part, it came from the Amish culture. See, the Amish culture, they have a way of expanding that when they get above 150, they split communities into 2 communities until it becomes another 150 and they split communities. Because the reason is they have very little crime because everybody knows each other. Everybody has a tight relationship. But once it gets to 151, there's this level of anonymity that we can do wrong to each other. And so this is like my inner circle. And if I'm going to focus, because I love to focus on the Pareto principle, the 80-20 rule. Do we know the 80-20 rule? Anybody not familiar with the 80-20 rule? Great. So this is focusing on the most valuable relationships, and that changes over time. Some people, my focus changes. Some people, other people's focus changes. So I want to constantly have an understanding of who are these people that are most likely to help me achieve my goals. When I do sales seminars, I say, pull out your phone. Who are the 10 people in your contact list that are most likely to buy from you today? Focus on those most likely people instead of everybody else. See, the number one mistake in networking is to think, I don't know enough people. I need to go make fresh relationships. Instead of saying, I need to network with the people that I know now, the people that are currently in my contact database. So if you can stratify your current contact database into who are the most likely to help me achieve my goals today, that's that 5% group. The 20% group is the people that I really want to keep in touch with. I really want them to know what I'm doing, but I just don't have the time to spend a whole lot of one-on-ones. Like I don't want to do coffees. I don't want to do lunches with the 20% group. I want to focus on that 5% group. Does that answer your question, Adrian? Yeah. Okay, so social media, like I said, I'm not going to get too much into it, but here's how I use it. I wouldn't say I use it most effectively. I use it as a forum to communicate that is public. Once I was having a conversation with someone who made a post on Facebook, and I commented on it. And I hadn't seen this guy in a long time, and he replied back, hey, how are you? What's new? And I said, hey, I'm coming to St. Louis. What are you doing? And he invited me to his event, and I said, I'd be happy to speak at your event. He said, that would be great. And then I stepped back and I said, why do we just have that conversation over comments that is completely public? But then I had a realization. That conversation makes us look pretty good. We look pretty good in that conversation. And people are going to see that on my wall, on his wall. And so when people can observe you being the person that you want to be perceived as, the professional, it's a passive way, because I didn't spend any more time on it than I would have with an email exchange, but it has so much more exposure and reach. And then other people can join the conversation. So that's sort of what it's like when people do customer service over Twitter. It's sort of like pulling back the curtain and seeing, okay, this is what we're really about. This is what we're really talking about. So this is a way to have conversations with people as a passive follow-up stream. It's passive because when I'm talking to the world or to an individual, other people at no additional cost to me can observe what I'm saying. And so let's say I have someone that I'm following or I'm sort of paying attention to. When they make a Facebook post, I read it. It just reminds me that they exist. They become top of mind. They are activating my reticular activator. So that's what I want to do. I want people to see that I exist. And the conversations that I'm having, I want them to read it and say, hey, I want to have that kind of conversation with that guy. That's how I use social media. My understanding of it is not super deep, but I do try to connect with people on it, and I do try to make my conversations be public. Last thing about follow-up is that my mother told me this: thank you cards are worth their weight in gold. And as Adrian said in the last session, if you guys were here for the marketing panel, the mail space is becoming less and less crowded as the digital space is becoming more crowded. So when you write a thank you card, handwritten with a real stamp, you stand out. And let me tell you, I've sent a lot of thank you cards, and it has paid dividends huge. I'll tell you the one thing that I sent in the mail, Adrian, you're welcome to use this, that has been my most successful. I have this little claim that I can make, which is I've never had an interview without getting a job offer. And when I first started, I wanted to be a motivational speaker, so I Googled motivational speaker, and I saw there was actually a job position in Toronto with a nonprofit called Free the Children. Motivational speaker positions. I really wanted that job, so I figured out who's the decision maker. I figured out how do I get her on Twitter? How do I get her voicemail or email? So I'm emailing her, I'm calling her, I'm Twittering her. I get nothing. So I send her a piece of mail. I send her an ear of corn in a package and a handwritten note around the corn that says, I realize this is corny, but aw shucks, I'm sending you this ear so that you will lend me your ear. I'm going to be in Toronto next Tuesday. I'm going to be at your office at 10 o'clock. I hope you're there, and I hope you can make 5 minutes for me. Monday night, I get a call. See you Tuesday morning. Sent her something, and I'm just imagining her opening up that piece of corn at her desk going, oh my goodness, going around the office saying, do you believe what is happening? I have a piece of corn in my hand. So do what you can to stand out through something physical. You remember, they're going to touch it, they're going to feel it, they're going to see it again. It might sit on their desk. Some people keep thank you notes for the rest of their lives. They'll pin it up on their wall and say, I got a thank you note from that guy. An email goes, I saw it, I deleted it, I'm never going to think of it again because I hate thinking of emails in the past. They just get buried. They're cheap, they're free, they're instant, but you're losing an opportunity to take an additional 5 minutes to send a letter. Yes? I scan the list on my Friday afternoon, and if I haven't talked to them this week, I will shoot them a quick email, or I'll do a group email of an update. And these are typically my current clients, current partners, family, friends, but most likely I've connected with them in some way throughout the week. That's where I try to focus my, my interactions is on that 5% throughout the week. So when I realize, oh, there's 20 people I haven't connected with, I'll shoot a couple of quick emails. I'll take 2 or 3 hours on a Friday, and I'll review. This is my weekly review. I look at the week past. What did I do? I look at the next week. I look at all my to-do lists, and I start to plan things. And one of the lists I scroll through is my Power 100, which takes discipline. Let me tell you, a Friday afternoon. There's that weekly review, and then there's that beer. Sending something physical can be hugely beneficial in following up. Now let's talk about international. So we talked about the mindset, the attitude. We've talked about what do you do when you're at the event. And we've talked about how do you follow up. But what about international? What about breaking into a new country that you want to expand to? Or what if you just want to have a trip to a new country that you don't know anybody there and you want to come back richer like I do? I want to travel the world on the company's dollar, 5-star, and come back richer. How do you do that? Well, you need a strategy. You need to have focus. You need to have a plan. If you say, hey, I want to do business anywhere in the world, someone's going to say, well, I can't help you. I don't know anywhere in the world. You ever notice someone says they're unemployed? I'll take any job. I need any job. And you can't think of it. I can't think of any job. But if they say, I'm an electrical engineer and I want to work for a Fortune 500 company like IBM, all of a sudden, I know someone at IBM. I can put you in touch because you're specific. So being specific. This is the how can I help you. When someone asks you how can I help you, you have a specific answer. How am I doing on time? Good? Great. So your strategy may consist of these things: a list of companies, a list of decision makers, because when you know a person, it's a lot easier to know how to get to that person. Social media is great for this, especially LinkedIn. When you know the person, you can Google the person, stalk the person, call the person. So your strategy will consist of companies and decision makers. And so you got to know what you want. What specifically do you want? Do you want an introduction? Do you want to know when the next event is that you can attend? Help people sell you by training them what it is you do. Training them, you know how, here's the problem, what would I do, here's the solution. Yes, Paul?
Coming back to your cards, as you were saying, do you send a branded card, or do you send a card with a picture on it? Or
I just send a fancy, and this is probably, I should probably brand my cards. I just send a really fancy one from Hallmark. They're about $1 a piece, and you can feel the embroideries and that sort of stuff. You can get like a box of 50 for $10, or you can get a box of 10 for $10. And I'd rather get the box of 10 for $10 for just, you know, the greater likelihood that they're going to appreciate it, that they're going to display it, that they're going to feel like, you know, this is nice quality. But I would say if you had the money, the time, the branded cards, it's better for you. I personally don't have a brand. As you can see, my logo, not displayed. I don't have one. My website, feel free to visit it, but it's a bit of an embarrassment to me. I don't have much of a brand, to my detriment. I would not advise you of that. So you have these different regions of the world, and if you've ever moved to another place, you know that you're never really at home. You never really know what it's like to be in that culture, even if you move from one side of the United States to the other. So I would say instead of trying to become an anthropologist and assimilate into the culture, just connect with someone who is local, who understands the market, who understands you, that you're able to create a win-win relationship with. That's the best way. And one of the greatest things you could do with networking is create partners. I ask myself the question, instead of asking myself the question, how can I reach my customers? I ask myself, who already has a relationship with the people that I want to meet, and how can I meet that guy? So if I'm selling to tech firms, I could go to tech firms, I can knock on the door, or I can go to Joe Salesman who sells to tech firms and has been selling for the last 20 years and say, hey, would you like to sell my services as well? I'll give you a commission. So that's the idea with this partner model, is you look for local partners that you can connect with that understand your business and will go into business with you. I've asked this question because I've been on this quest myself. How do I go to another country, an exotic place, and come back richer? And I've always gotten this piece of advice for those who do it and do it well. You have to go there. You have to go there, you have to meet people, you have to get acquainted. And I've heard that the first 3 trips are all an investment. Don't expect to get business out of the first 3 trips. And some cultures want to see you face to face multiple times before they ever do business with you. And I'll give you a tip someone gave to me, which I think is a brilliant idea. What he did is he went to Singapore. Never been to Singapore before, but he called the top 10 hotels. And he's a sales trainer. He said, I'll give you sales training in the evening, train your sales staff, if you give me 2 weeks in your hotel. So he got himself free accommodation because he asked himself the question, how can I go to Singapore on a budget? The answer is, well, I could train staff, I could barter, I could house sit, I could stay in a hostel. So when you're asking yourself a question like, how can I make it happen, instead of having the belief, well, I can't afford it, or oh, it's too far, or I don't know anybody there, ask yourself the question, how can I make it happen? So he called these places, he offered his service, and he was there for 2 weeks and networked. Probably didn't get much business out of it, but then he did it again 2 months later. And now Singapore is one of his hubs. And he really developed Singapore as a hub. So he's doing Indonesia and Malaysia and China around Singapore. And now he's developing the hub of Dubai. He's in Dubai, so he's doing Saudi Arabia, India, Iran, Iraq. He loves to travel, he loves to speak. He's a fellow speaker. You have to go there. Now, what's that? He speaks about two things everywhere he goes, attitude and sales. He's actually my co-author. We're releasing a book on discipline coming up. So maximize your trip again. Remember, there's the trip before, after, and during. Get there early, plan before you get there so you know exactly what you're getting into. See, I went on this trip down to St. Louis, and I knew I was speaking at an association for sales. So a month out, I said, can you give me the list of people who are in your organization, their contact information? And I made calls, and I wrote emails, and I connected on social media, and I made a LinkedIn forum, and we were asking all these questions to each other. So when I got to the meeting, half the people already knew me and had a high opinion of me. Then I had my short period of time where I delivered my service, and then I had follow-up, follow-up, follow-up. So the next time I'm in St. Louis, I had this warm market to attack. Not attack, nurture. So here's a couple quick tips to help you expand your business internationally. Get yourself a local phone number. For $30 a year, you can get a Skype-in phone number, which will ring Skype either on your computer or forward it to your phone. You can get a virtual office address, which you'll get an actual street address. Someone will open your mail, someone will answer the call, and you'll have office space that you can come in and rent on an hourly or daily basis when you're in town, but you don't have all the overhead of a local office. And here's a very simple idea just to show that you have an international mindset. When your phone number starts with parenthesis, area code, parenthesis, followed by 7 digits, that means your card is designed for North America. If you have +1 hyphen parenthesis, that means you are telling people my country code is United States or Canada, which means I do business internationally. So add +1 in front of your phone number if you would like that. Your local partners are going to see, what's this +1? What's a plus doing there? But any international phone call starts with plus and then the country code. So just a simple idea to look at your marketing materials. Does it cater to an international audience, or does it use a lot of lingo that might not be understood by even English in a foreign country, or even English in Australia or UK or many other English-speaking countries? If they can't understand your marketing material, it shows them that you are a local company. So I think I'll have a few minutes for questions, but I just want to remind you about this Networking Action Plan book, what it includes. See, this is about taking action. It's a tool to help you take action, because my philosophy in teaching is it's not what I say, it's what you remember. And it's not only what you remember, but it's what you do with what you remember. Specifically, if you act on the information you know at the time that it's valuable. So this is a tool to help you prepare for a networking event, to review after a networking event, know some ideas of what to say, know some ideas of how to follow up. Tips on how to remember names, very important. Some magic words to get into a conversation, to get out of a conversation. Your personal pitch, we talked about, you know how, here's a problem, what I do, here's a solution. So to get that, you email iwantthebook@gmail.com. Thank you very much. And what do we got time for questions? 5 minutes? Okay, I can probably take 2 or 3 questions. Yes?
How do you break into a conversation?
Thank you. iwantthebook@gmail.com has some ideas for you. One thing to look at is body language. If they are very close and they are leaning in, it's probably not a good conversation for you to break into. If you see that people are standing at an angle, that means they're open. If they're face-to-face squared off, they're really into it. That's not the ideal conversation to break into. You still can. This angle thing means I'm open to new people coming in. Now what I do is I just kind of creep up on the group there, and I kind of just make it a little bit uncomfortable. And then when I can, I'll get my hand in there and I'll introduce myself. Now that's one way you can do it. It's a little creepy. If you will, it does work. If you just listen and people are laughing and you laugh with them, you might have a question to clarify. what's going on, what are we talking about, and focus your interest on them. It's not about you saying, this is what I do. It's what do you do? What do you do? What are you guys talking about? Hey, how about this room? Hey, how about that weather? Because you're talking about things that you connect on. We have that in common. Does that answer your question? There's some more ideas in the book. Yes. Yes, sir.
When the last time we met, you said, let me know how I can help you,
Yes.
right? Which I thought was great. And then I've been thinking for quite a long time, how can I help you?
Thank you.
So you're going to Australia, right?
Yes.
Now I'm trying to make sure I'm doing this all correct here, right? So you're going to Australia. What are you going to do there?
I'm going to teach Aboriginal people how to start businesses.
Okay. I know somebody in Australia who's quite a bit of a mover and shaker. And he's very much involved in Rotary, has a number of businesses, a number of towns. So helping you would be me introducing you to this fellow.
Thank you very much. That would be very valuable, Don. And there's two ways that I can follow up on your comment. One, I could say, oh, well, as I can see, you have my card, so could you send me the email about the guy? Great, that's one way I can do it. Is that guaranteed to get me results? Not at all. Or I could say, Don, can I have your card? Now, you said yesterday you don't have a card, is that right?
That's correct.
Now, here's what you do with them. Now, I used to have index cards cut in half, and I said, here, I brought you some cards. And I'd give them 5 or 10, and I'd say, write your email on it, and that could be your card for the night. But since I don't have that, what I do have is my Omni book. Now, I use this for everything. That's why I call it Omni. Everything all my ideas, all my phone calls, I don't want to answer the phone unless I have pen and this book ready to go. Because when I make a commitment to someone, like I'm going to refer you to someone, I will write it down and make a note, and I know I'm going to get back to it. I know I'm going to get it done. And it reminds me about what's most important. You may not be able to see it, but these are 4 things. These are the 4 freedoms. The reason I went into business is for freedom. And so many business owners go into business for freedom and then get enslaved by their own business. The 4 freedoms are financial freedom. I want to make more passive income than my cost of living. Time freedom. I want to have all the time in the world to spend with my family, friends, and go on adventures. Relationship freedom. I want to have the ability to build relationships because I'm not worried about time and money. And I want to have service freedom. I want to have the ability to give because my cup is overflowing, because I have the money, I have the time. So I'm focused on these 4 things, and then I just remember life is good. This is my Omni book. It keeps me focused. So I'm going to write, if you don't mind writing, your email and name, Don. I will follow up with you if you don't follow up with me first.
Now, if I may do one more thing.
Yes.
You asked how you could help me.
Yes.
Okay. A fellow in Australia runs an organization called Disaster Aid Australia as part of Disaster Aid International.
Okay.
And when disasters happen, they send these boxes of shelter and food, not food, but cooking materials and other things, so people, when they lose their houses, they have a place to stay.
Okay.
They're always looking for people like you to help them spread the word.
Fantastic. This is the same person?
Yeah.
So it would actually help you if I got in touch with that person?
It would help me, if you were to help him.
Well, that will be in order. Thank you very much, Don.
That would be very helpful.
Yes. Yes, Jerry. Rotary in Australia. Thank you, Jerry. Rotary was my first trip out of the country. I went and stayed with a family in Argentina through Rotary, and that sparked my love for travel. So,
Also sparks an obligation to return the favor.
you know,
We're counting.
I may pay it forward. I may pay it forward. So we may be out of time for questions today. I would love to get your questions via email here, majeed@majeedm.com, or Twitter @majeedm. I will stick around in the room. It's been a pleasure meeting you all. I hope this has been helpful. We have some feedback forms here. If you can fill them out and put them in this blue box on the way out, that would be great. And I'll stick around for any other questions. Thank you very much.